This is the last video in the size and resolution lesson. If you remember, I told you don't resize up. That's a rule. We don't want you resizing up in your assignments. Well, that might be a rule, but in much of graphic design, rules can be broken as long as you have a reason for breaking them. In this video, I'm going to show you a couple of reasons for doing that, or a couple of reasons why you can resize an image up in Photoshop. I want you to think about it, however, and remember, what was the main problem about resizing an image up? It was the quality of the image, the detail of the image. Remember, when Photoshop takes a low resolution image and resizes it up, it can't add detail. So one of the conditions, in fact, the main condition that will allow you to resize images up is going to be if you don't really need a lot of detail. So take a look at the screen, for instance, and I'm going to show you 3 situations, but there are many where you might be able to resize up because detail's not really that important. For example, I have an image here called Cloud Low Resolution, and then an image called Sky. If I take the Cloud Low Resolution image and I drop it into the sky, it comes in at this particular size. What if I want it to be bigger? Well, if I go Command T, enlarge it, like I've told you not to do in the previous videos, it's actually not going to be that big of a deal. You can probably get away with it because there isn't a lot of detail in clouds. So Photoshop doesn't have really a hard time adding pixels because they're just soft cloud, white, gray pixels, and it doesn't need to add detail. Now, of course, I can do some other things to make this look a little bit more natural. And I'm just going to add a levels adjustment layer, clip it to this cloud layer, and then adjust down here a little bit. And then I'm going to change the blending mode of the layer to lighten. And I'm going to go back to the levels and adjust it down a little bit more. And you can see there now I've added the cloud. I might have a little bit of a reddish thing here that I could deal with. But basically, even if I zoom up, it doesn't look too bad because there are no details really in clouds. Let's take a look at another example. This is just a goofy guy picture. Sometimes, for graphic design reasons, you are going to want to do a special effect or some sort of technique that really doesn't require a lot of detail. I'll give you a very common one. It's called Posterization. So I'm going to go over to my Layers menu, and I'm going to add 2 different adjustment layers. The first is I'm going to add a black and white adjustment layer, and so now that makes him black and white. Next, on top of the black and white layer, I'm going to add the Posterize adjustment layer. And notice what it does. It does this change where it flattens out the colors. In fact, if you look over here in the Properties palette, it's telling you that it is changing this image into just 4 colors. They happen to be 4 colors of gray, but it's only made up of 4 colors. Notice the more colors I add, the more it looks real. The less colors I add, the more it is what's called posterized. Here there's only 2 colors, black and white. And so if this is an effect that you want in your design, then it doesn't really matter if you don't have a lot of detail in your design. Let's take a look at another situation. Here I have a graffiti image, and here I have a brick wall image, and I'm going to take this graffiti image and put it on the brick wall, and I'm going to enlarge it, but I want it to look natural, like it's part of the wall. And in order to do that, I have to dial down the opacity of the image, which then gets rid of a lot of the required detail, and I also am going to use a different blending mode. So I'm going to take this graffiti image, drag the layer to the image I want to drop it into it, and you'll notice that it comes in at that particular size. Command T, resize it up. I'm going to want it much bigger. Maybe that's good. Maybe I'll move it down just a touch. And then finish it. Now that still looks pretty good, but I have resized this up and I'll lose detail. But in this case, I don't really care because I'm going to do a couple of things. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the normal blending mode to the multiply blending mode. Notice how it allows the back of the wall to show through. Now you can try other blending modes like color burn, but multiply is going to work fine in this particular situation. And so I'm losing some of the required detail in the graffiti image, the graffiti layer. I don't need some of the detail in the graffiti layer. And this is even compounded when I dial down the opacity. I'm going to go down from 100% way down to about 50%. Here's 55%. Now I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that looks really good. And the reason why I got away with making this image larger, the graffiti image larger, was because I didn't need it to have all sorts of detail because I'm grabbing some of the other layers behind it to make it look like I want it to look. So there are just a few of the situations that you can enlarge images and get away with it. I just want to make sure that you understand the rule. Do not enlarge images if you require detail. If the image looks pixelated, you're going to get grayed down for it. So make sure that if you're in a situation where it's acceptable to enlarge the image, you've thought it through, and the reason it's acceptable to enlarge the image is because you're doing something with it that doesn't require detail. There you have it. That is our lesson on size and resolution. I'll see you next time.